Welcome back to another Resonance Guide. For this video, I am going to be going over probably my favorite archetype in the game at the moment. It is the one that I play more than any of the other ones, and that is the Warden. Once again, I'm going to be starting here on the archetype selection screen so that I can go over the perk that I use when I play Warden. So when I play Warden, and as you can see, my Warden looks phenomenal. But when I play Warden, the perk that I use is going to be this one right here. It's Phlegmatic. It is the one that lets you start out with 2 blue resonance. And the reason I use that one over the other ones is 1, because Warden does not have Martial or Athlete, which, to be honest, if I had access to either one of those perks on Warden, I would more than likely use Martial, because it is very important for Warden to actually take the time to get resonances. But using Phlegmatic is going to give us the ability to have a shortcut when we are attempting to get level 3 Phlegmatic, or the blue resonance. And what that's going to allow us to do is it's going to allow us to use our shackle very, very fast. If I'm correct, I believe the cooldown time for the shackle when you have 3 of the blue resonance is 12 seconds. We will find out for sure when we get into the match. But as I stated, this is my favorite archetype in the game at the moment. It's the one I play the most. Now, since we're waiting for a match, I do want to speak a little bit about the ideal playstyle for when you are playing Warden. Warden is not like the other archetypes, and really the only other one I would say play if you're having a hard time using Warden would be Enforcer, because it has sort of a similar playstyle. Now, Warden is a very, very slow-paced and methodical archetype in that you have to go into every fight with the mindset of, I am going to either win this fight or I am going to die in this fight. And the reason I say that is because Warden does not have the ability to disengage when you are in a fight at all. You have to commit because, you know, you have your E ability, which is the shackle, which doesn't give you any escape options. Possibly it does in a 1v1. And then your Q is going to be the Marble Flesh, which of course makes you immune to all damage for a brief moment of time. So once again, when I pick my spawn point, I'm going to land at one of the melee stores, because having a katana on Warden is crucial. Personally, this spawn right here is my favorite, because not only do I have access to a sword store from early on, I also have the 2 entity camps nearby, which is going to allow me to this quick here. It's going to allow me to go ahead and get those resonances early on. Sorry about that, I was getting my thumbnail for this video. So when you play Warden, most important thing is going to be the prep. You absolutely have to prepare for fights. It is again another archetype where if you take the time to prepare early on in the match, you're going to be much better off. I do want to cover some tricks and just some things that you need to keep in mind when you play Warden. So of course we got the katana. Now I was lucky enough to get the blue to spawn right next to me, which is perfect. So one thing you should note about Warden is your shackle ability. Not only can you use it on other players, you can also use it on civilians. And when you use it on a civilian, it's going to have the same effect of the Siren's charm ability, in that the civilians will not react to anything that you do. As far as if I'm shooting, if I'm feeding on another mortal right in front of them, they will not react. So you can use it tactically if you're trying to get resonances, or if you're playing trios and your teammates are trying to get resonances. You can use that in order to go ahead and provide cover for them. And the cooldown on the shackle, if you use it on a civilian, is going to be half of what it would be if you use it on a player. So at 3 blue resonances, it is going to be a 6-second cooldown on a civilian, and again a 12-second cooldown on the other players. Now, bonus, you can also use the shackle on the entity soldiers, and what that's going to do is going to allow them, it's going to make it so they don't shoot at you. So as you can see, I'm standing in front of him, and he's not doing anything. If you combine that with level 3 blue resonance, you can honestly wipe out an entire entity camp and feed on all of them, as you should ideally be doing. And if you use it correctly, on the correct ones, then you'd be able to go ahead and feed on all of them, get those resonance slots, which will allow you to, you know, fulfill those preparations that are absolutely necessary when you play Warden. Now, you do have options for how you want to build Warden. I'm going to go over what I normally do. Again, there's 2 branching segments for when I build my Warden, or 2 branching paths. You're either going to want to, or what I do normally, is get the blue resonance to level 3 as soon as possible so I can use my shackle more. And then once I do that, if I'm able to get a sword, which normally I prioritize melee anyways, again, I'm a melee player. If I have a sword, then I immediately go for choleric. And once you have choleric, that's when you're able to start pushing fights and not have to worry about how you're going to stay alive. Also, one thing to note, when you feed on mortals, when you feed on other players, and when you feed on entity soldiers, you are going to get all your health and your armor back on Warden. So it's very useful if you're in a pinch. For instance, if you're in a gunfight, if you're able to lose line of sight that the other player has on you, you can go and feed on a mortal and get all your health back. So, very useful strategy. Highly recommend you use it. And then if you're playing with a team, it's going to allow you to go ahead and you'll be able to have like armor on deck for, you know, your teammates if they end up needing it. Now the reason we prioritize melee, because I haven't been able to make a melee guide just yet, is because if you melee people that are on the ground, you get your health back. So ideally, if you're in a fight with somebody, which it's going to be harder to show in practice on an actual player, it's very situational when you're able to do this. But basically what you can do is you can absorb shots and heal yourself using players that are on the ground. Deob them if you have the ability to do so, if you have the time. If not, just melee them while they're on the ground. Either way, you'll be getting your health back. As you can see, I'm just kind of playing around the other players and doing everything I can to get my resonances up here for the melee. Once you do melee, normally after that I go ahead and do sanguine after that. Because, you know, Marble Flesh, while it is a good ability, the cooldown is just so long and it doesn't necessarily contribute to your survivability that much because the cooldown is so long. I think it's like a 14-second cooldown if you get to level 3. Let's find out. Yeah, it's a 14-second cooldown if you get to level 3. So no matter what, it's going to take a long time. You can also shackle blood-hunted players through walls and from a really far range. So you want to be doing that. And I'll show you a little bit of why I use the katana here. It's really about being able to deflect bullets back at people and do damage to them while defending yourself, and then also just getting your health back. The more cleric you have, the more health you can get back when you are meleeing people that are on the ground. Now I have the resonance slots to go ahead and get level 3 melancholic or marble flesh, but again, I'm not worried about it. It's because the cooldown's so long whether you have level 3 or not. It's really just like a bonus resonance you can get. Normally I just start fighting people as soon as I get the other, or as soon as I get cleric, I start fighting. So I'm just gonna play the match out like normal. I'll go ahead and get the full resonances here for the sake of showing off the cooldown. But again, with the shackle, good thing I'm getting to show that here. I shackle this guy, or this woman here, and I feed on this mortal here. She's not going to react, as you can see. Now, if I would have waited until the shackle went, if I didn't have that shackle there, then I would have fed on that mortal, they would have freaked out. You can use it tactically to get resonances, or get your health back if you're, you know, going over to where there's a group of enemies. You have to be smart when you play Warden. You can't W key every fight unless you know you have a game plan before you go into it. Don't even necessarily have to sit there and think about it for a long period of time, but if I go into a fight, especially now that I have all these resonances, I've got a shotgun, which those are honestly like the main weapons I use in the game outside of ARs. You know, if you've got a shotgun, then, you know, you can afford to just fight anybody, commit to the fight. You want to be deobbing every chance you get, or feeding on mortals every chance you get if you're not full health. Save your resources. Can shackle this guy through the wall. I'm gonna go ahead and melee this guy and get my health back. As you can see with those 3 slices, I got all my health back. Honestly could have deobbed that guy, but it's okay. Gonna ignore the bots and kill the players. Deob this guy and get my armor back. You can see in the bottom left hand corner there. Now I can kill the bot. When you play solos, and I'll make a guide for specifically for solos, but when you play solos, you should not be prioritizing bots. If you want to win most matches like I win most matches, you don't even prioritize getting kills, because they're not important. What's important is killing the actual players, being mindful of where they're at. This is that brute from before. That guy's out of the match. Pay attention to your UI in the top right corner of the screen. It'll show you when the number goes down after you kill somebody. It means they're gone. You don't have to worry about them anymore. In case you did not know how the shackle works, there's a set range that enemies can move in. If they move out of that range, they take 50 damage. So it's a good pressure tool to either make somebody stay where you want them at, or stay within a certain area. Or if you're trying to, you know, obviously if you hit them, they take a great amount of damage there, enough to break their armor. But then on top of that, you're also going to be able to slow them if they decide to eat that damage from the shackle. Not only will they be eating damage, they'll also be slowed. Now back up here. This guy's got that crossbow, so I don't want to stay in one spot for too long. If I can get the shackle on him. And play a little aggro here because I got a shotgun. still up top. This is, again, going back to how important it is to keep your resources. I got so much armor and heals. When you have to really worry about running out while I'm fighting this guy. That guy wasn't able to move just now because I shackled him. And there you go. That's all there is to it. Warden is pretty easy to play if you take your time. And again, it's one of my favorite archetypes in the game. So that's a little overview about how I build my Warden and how I play my Warden when I'm in solo matches. I highly recommend for the triple phlegmatic or blue resonance. You should be aiming for that no matter what. No matter what game mode you play in, duos, trios, solos, it doesn't matter. You want to be able to shackle people as much as possible. Because again, you can use it on civilians, you can use it on entity soldiers, and obviously you can use it on other players. So, thank you again for watching this guide, and I will see you around in Prague.